A highly anticipated bilateral meeting held between the top leaders of China and the European Union had to wrap up this week in Beijing. Though some bumps were encountered on the development of bilateral ties such as trade disputes, both sides have sent out signals of communication and cooperation. First, during his meeting with the European Council President Antonio Costa and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Chinese President Xi Jinping put forward three major proposals on the development of China-EU ties. They include upholding mutual respect and consolidating partnership, adhering to openness and cooperation, while properly handling differences, as well as safeguarding multilateralism and international law.
Over the past 50 years, China-Europe exchanges and cooperation have yielded fruitful results. Among them, the important experience and inspiration are mutual respect, seeking common ground while reserving differences, open cooperation.
This EU-China summit takes place on the 50th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. This anniversary is an opportunity to reflect on our shared story and to look towards the future. The European Union remains committed to deepening our bilateral partnership, making concrete progress in addressing concerns with respect, goodwill, and honesty.
Meanwhile, China and the EU have also issued a joint statement on climate change. The statement highlights the importance of a just green transition as well as cooperation under the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement. The two sides vowed to support the COP30 meeting in Brazil later this year and push for ambitious but fair outcomes.
Our joint statement on climate and the environment is a big step forward. We both see the opportunities to work closer together in sectors such as emission trading, just introduced here in China, carbon capture and storage, the circular economy, and our cooperation can set a global benchmark.
During their press conference held right after the summit, European Council President Antonio Costa and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen specifically mentioned that, quote, both the EU and China are the world's largest economies, adding that the two sides should uphold multilateralism and jointly promote an open and fair international trading system. Well, data released by Chinese customs show that in the first half of this year, the total imports and exports volume between China and the European Union per day hits over 15 billion yuan, or about 1.8 billion euros. And the bloc accounts for nearly 13% of China's total foreign trade value, firmly ranking as China's second largest trading partner.
Really broad potential for Europe and China to continue to expand upon collaboration. And I think now the obligation that we have, that is to try to find ways that we can realize this potential, that we can continue to create value for Europe and for China.
Well, we mentioned many times that this year marks the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and the EU, but that's not just a number. I remember during his press conference held in Beijing, and European Council President Antonio Costa said over the past 5 decades, bilateral ties have created great value for both China and the European Union. With such common grounds of trade, multilateralism, coping with climate change and others, it's not hard to imagine that for the next 5 decades, both China and the EU will have even more space to create greater benefits for the peoples of both sides.